technical hitches happening every now and then, so please pardon us. Now, good to know that you are still there. On our minds this week is a menace called suicide. And together with our guests, we shall do our best to take a holistic look at finding out answers and solutions to this challenge. But before all of that, let us quickly take a shot at some talking points from happenings around us since we were here last, John.
Yeah. And top on the list, of course, would be the attempted suicide, or is it suicide? I'm not sure if it's confirmed yet. Of the lady, the DSS, they say, the DSS staff, who jumped into the lagoon at the Third Mainland Bridge.
Yeah.
Well, it's really sad that this kind of thing would happen, but a lot of questions still need to be asked, because we hear that she alighted from an Uber cab and she had just had some kind of argument with her, fiancé, like they say. The story is still unfolding. Yeah. But it's quite a sad one. Unfortunately,
we have loads of them, happening every now and then. Yes. And that's why we're looking at suicide today, isn't that why? Okay. Yes. We also learned within the week that Nigeria, it's good news that Nigeria has been elected to host heads of African drug law enforcement agencies. That will be coming next year. Is a gathering of all drug lords and agencies, and it will be happening in Nigeria. And I'm wondering, anything in the air? Is there anything? Are we doing so well in this area, to warrant this honor?
Yeah, I would guess that we're quite experienced in this area. Giving the the number of cases we've had to. To deal with, especially with drug. Well, that would be my assumption.
And I think since retired General Marwa came on board,
yes, a lot has been done.
A lot has been done.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, also in the news, still in the news and still very controversial, is the appointment by Governor Wike of 200,000 essays. A lot of people are coming out to speak their minds about it. And some people think that it is a threat to democracy.
Yes, you're not asking the right person, Helen. I don't touch.
You are in Nigeria.
I don't touch politics. I don't touch religion.
Okay. All right, you don't touch.
But I'd like to talk about the rains. We're still having heavy rains in November. Last night, the night before, I think.
Yeah.
Heavy rains.
I think it's just trying to usher in the Harmattan.
The Harmattan. Okay.
And that's good for us.
So that's great.
Okay. And finally, for weeks, we've been troubled, by the constant operation of bandits and kidnappers, along the Lagos-Ibadan express road. And so it's cheering news that we're told that the police now are on top of that situation. They've beefed up security at that point. That's very good news. We hope that it's not just for the news, that really we have men on ground there to save lives.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Of course, they say tough times never last. Only tough people do.
Yeah.
So ask me any day, and I will, with conviction, tell you that Nigerians are tough.
Tell me that.
And rugged.
Don't tell me that again. No, Nigerians love life, and we're known to cling to the smallest of hopes. But of recent, so many things have showed up that probably we're not that resilient. So reasons we're troubled that the incidence of suicide is on the increase. So what is it that is responsible for the break in the resilience of Nigerians, old and young, male and female? We hope that we'll be able to find that out at the end of this show, John.
Yes, and to help us with answers is a man who heads administration at the Family Wellness Therapy Center, Lekki in Lagos, a member of the Nigerian Association of Clinical Psychologists, NACP, as well as the American Psychological Association, APA. Our guest is a trained, certified, and licensed clinical psychologist. My namesake, John Odutemu. Well, at short notice, he's joined us via Zoom. Thanks for showing so much commitment.
Thank you so much, John. And welcome to Today with John and Helen on Plus TV. So good to have you on.
Thank you. It's good to be with you. Thanks for having me here today.
Thank
Great.
you. All right, so John, are we shooting right? I think he's waiting to give us answers.
He's waiting to give us answers, and we have loads and loads of questions. I only hope that we'll be able to go through all of them. But let's start from a logical beginning. You know, having suicidal tendencies is no doubt a strange terminology to most of us. Could you please explain what it is to us?
Okay. The word suicide is a combination of two words, su and side. And the word side means to kill, while so is self. So that means suicide will then mean death by self.
Wow. Okay.
So someone killing himself or herself, that is what suicide means. So just like we have the word pesticide, homicide. Pesticide means to kill pests. Homicide is killing in the home. So genocide, killing a whole generation, group of people. So suicide is death by self, someone taking his or her life. That is what suicide will then mean.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Now, considering suicide will definitely mean that someone probably has given up on life. And we're wondering, why would anybody give up on life with so much in view?
Okay, so I think the fact that now we have media coverage of people taking their lives has brought a different dimension to suicide. Suicide is really not new. However, it's not something that's trended for a very long period of time. For instance, in the old Oyo Empire, suicide was a honorable way for a king to actually die. There is also what we call assisted suicide in the a medical term. So, why would someone take his or her life when there is so much to expect? Really, there are lots of reasons why someone will take his or her life. Take for instance the incident that's happened in Nigeria in the last 1 week. I'm not talking about the actual suicide now, but I'm talking about the foreign exchange itself. The fluctuation in foreign exchange could lead to someone having thought disorder. Imagine someone who bought dollars at about 900 just 2-3 days ago, and then is hearing that dollar is now selling for about 700, 750. It takes a lot for such a person not to actually have that thought of why not just end it. There are what we also call adverse childhood experiences. Those experiences could make one to actually develop, to actually have personality profile that could dispose such a person into having suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideation, suicidal attempts, and even actual suicide itself. So there are a lot of factors that could dispose one psychologically. It could be depression, it could be anxiety, it could be substance abuse, it could be loss of social status, it could be loss of economic power, it could be loss of job, loss of fund, disconnection with social network, spousal conflicts, divorce, a loss of a loved one, a loved child. So all these are factors that could actually predispose one into having suicidal thoughts. And if not properly managed, if not properly handled, the person would move from suicidal thoughts into proper ideation and then plan on how to execute the suicidal thought itself and actually commit, attempt suicide. And if not assisted, such a person could die through such a suicide attempt.
Yes. Well, I want us to mark the word ideation. I'll come back to that so that you break it down, explain it to us. But I see that the common denominator in all of what you've talked about is likely to be depression. Yeah? Now, we all suffer depression from time to time. When does depression become so bad as to lead one to suicidal thoughts?
Okay, so really, there are different forms of depression. But the main thing is, depression is not just sadness. It is a prolonged period of sadness that's taking hold of the person, which could be characterized by low mood over a long period of time, loss of interest in what the person used to do before. It could be characterized by the person not having interest in maintaining his relationship, going to work, going out, and among other factors. Depression is one of the major cause, one of the very major cause of suicide. However, for what has been found by mental health professionals, psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, psychiatric nurse, among others, is thought disorder. Anybody who is battling with depression, either chronic depression, major depressive disorder, psychosthenia, dysthenia, and what have you, is thought disorder.
Okay.
Now, the person is no longer able to properly process his or her thoughts. And what that leads to is a negative thinking pattern. Now, once that person have a negative thinking pattern, the person's thinking keeps going down the slope. And the only thing the person says are negative. Things like, I am worthless. I'm a failure. There is nothing I do that can impress others. I am the worst of mankind.
Wow.
I have no reason to actually be alive. Nobody wants to have a conversation with me. So when someone have this kind of thought pattern, that tells you that something is wrong somewhere, and such a person can actually commit suicide. Now, that person committing suicide might not actually be that the person has suicidal thoughts before, but the person might come across a particular message, maybe on social media or movie, on how to end it all, and the person might just like, let me just try this thing.
Wow.
Not because they really want to do it, they just like, let me just try it and see if my problem will come to an end. And that's why we always say that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary setback.
Wow.
So thought disorder is the major cause of suicide. So depression, it could be in depression, could be in substance, could be in psychosis, schizophrenia, could be in anxiety, but the major cause is thought disorder.
Wow.
All right. Thank you so much. While you were talking, I'm thinking that because you're in this field, and you said earlier on that the topic suicide and that menace is not a new thing. It's been with us for like forever. But you are faced with it, you know, dealing with people who come to you with one form of depression or one kind of reason to want to end it all. Let's look at our immediate environment. How scary really is this? How, if you can put a number to it, like how much of this should be our concern? How many people are faced with this challenge and likely to take their lives?
Okay, so statistic-wise, Nigeria, we don't have proper statistics of the total number of persons who died by suicide.
Okay.
However, it is estimated that about 1.5% of death in Nigeria is through suicide. And it is quite scary because this statistics was put forth, that was early last year. And if the statistic is taken this year, of course, the data will should have gone beyond 1.5% that we had. Then, of course, by now should be going close to about 2 to 3%. Wow. It is a scary situation, very, very scary situation where people feel the only way is for them to end it.
Okay.
Through Zoom, and I was speaking with people who wanted to end it all. She had bought what she wanted to use to end it all, one pocket through, and there is nothing you will tell me that will make me not to do it. And I listened to her. I had to give her. After speaking with her, it was about 30 minutes, and she told me that she's going to hold on until we actually see. And that was the saving grace. So there was someone with her who was her boyfriend at the time anyway, was with her. And so her boyfriend was her saving grace, was the one who was able to reach out and then got there just before she attempted it. And she's still alive today. Now, that is just one case. There are hundreds of cases that we actually see every now and then in different groups that we belong to.
Okay.
For instance, you have in Nigeria at the moment, there is what we call the anti-suicide and depression squad. Okay. Is where you have people with depression and suicidal thoughts. They come together, and then we have group sessions with them. We also have individual sessions with them. And the number of persons that we've had in the last 2 weeks has been really, really overwhelming, even for us professionals. It's been very much overwhelming. And like I mentioned earlier, our environment at the moment is one very that toxic. Is actually predisposing people to having suicidal thoughts.
Okay.
Students were at home from February to, I think, late last month before they resumed. Now there is information that ASU are going on strike again. So these are things that actually put the life of young people at risk. Drugs are readily available in the market. It puts the life of young people at risk. You have people who have left university, no employment jobs for them.
All right.
Puts their life at risk.
John, I know you have a question coming up. But let me just throw this as a follow-up to my last question. So I am thinking that, suicide incidences or patients or victims are people crying out for help. Like it's a way of, attention and crying out for assistance and help, like I'm here. Because they may not be in a position, to talk about it. So they probably need someone, to notice where they are and find out, how are you doing? Are you okay? Do you need help? So would you say suicide is one way of people really reaching out and asking for help and assistance somehow?
Okay, so the thing is, suicide, could that be a way of asking for help? Not really. Most of the time, suicide is a way of, I don't want to stress people again.
Wow.
I don't want to be a burden on others. Okay. So those people who are already, there are signs really that someone wants to commit suicide. And so professionals, we take note of those signs. And when we go out for psychoeducation, we talk about these signs so that people can also take notes of them.
Okay, now,
someone who...
Could you give us those signs? Just list out some of them. We need to know those signs.
Okay, so when you have someone saying things like, life is not worth it. Life is worthless. What are we still doing in this life? If only I could get this substance to consume, I just wish I could end it all. So all these are markers. Someone might just say, I just wish I could just go to the highway and then maybe trailer or vehicle, anything just hit them and then they just die.
What about
Those are signs.
behavioral patterns? What are the signs? How do they behave?
Now, other things are someone taking his or her belongings and then giving them out to people.
Okay.
For no just reason. Not that they are relocating. They've given out their furniture, they've given out their cars. Some might sell their house, property, and everything. And then they disconnect socially from everybody. All those things are signs that something is not right somewhere. Someone goes to the bank, withdraw his fund or her fund in their account, and then gives them out. Something that he or she doesn't do before.
Normally.
All those are behaviors that you need to know that something is not right. And then you see maybe you see marks on the person's hand. Could be the neck, could be the leg. All those are the person is making attempts. One day the person might just cut the vein and then will end it. So by the time you notice any of these, you know something is. And then there was actually a patient that asked me, that was about 5 years ago now, said, Mr. John, if I jump from this window, will I die?
Wow.
This was in a rehab. And then I said, why do you want to jump? He said, nothing, I just want to jump. So if I jump, will I die? And then I looked at her and I said, I will get back to you with my answer. And of course, immediately I opened what we call suicide checklists. I informed all the members of staff working in the facility. And then we had to check the burglary proof, check out the glass, the mirror, and every other thing that could assist in suicide in that particular room. Took them out. And the following day, the patient asked me, said, Mr. John, was it because of what I said that you took out everything? And I told the person, no.
Okay. All right. So you took an action, you know, that helped, even though you were not sure the person was actually, you know, trying to end his or her life. Now, so when we see these signs around us, you know, either in our loved ones or with our colleagues and all of that, how do we help? What can we do?
Okay, so when you notice any of this behavior in either a friend, a colleague, a relative, a sibling, a child, whoever the person is, there are hotlines that are available. If for want of fund, the person feel there is no money for care, there are lots of hospitals out there that render free services.
Okay.
For us, even at Family Wellness Therapy Center, we do pro bono services for people. We, depending on the peculiarity of their situation, we bring them on board and then we listen to them and then we render them free service. Aside that, we have, like I said, we have the government agencies that also actually do that, which I know through the social work department, they pick people up and they attend to them.
Okay.
Now, just let them know. The thing is, the fact that somebody is thinking of suicide doesn't mean the person is raving mad. No.
Okay.
It is one of the events that can happen to anyone. Anyone. It could be me. It could be you, the host. It could be our listeners at home. It could be significant others. Just anyone could be at risk. Now, once you notice it, raise alarm, seek for professional services.
Okay, I would like to tweak Helen's last question a bit, because now I want to imagine that, okay, I have suicidal thoughts. That's suicidal ideation, like you call it. That is me, all right? And I know that it's very clear to me that, you know, I'm beginning to have those thoughts. How do I help myself? Any self-help?
So the moment, like I said, the moment the thought pattern becomes fatalistic, becomes let me end it all.
Yeah.
And the person is still aware of the thought pattern. Just take a walk to a mental health facility.
Okay.
Such a person will be admitted.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, I said there is suicide watch list. Every mental health facility has that. We pay total attention to such a person. And someone has actually come while I was doing internship somewhere, got into the facility and then said, please admit me. If you don't admit me, I might kill myself before tomorrow morning. And the person was admitted.
Wow.
Okay. Just under a month ago, I had to admit one of my clients who called the morning and then said he was going to end it. So I told the person, is let him in. And I think the next available vehicle in place come over. I said, I didn't want to take any vehicle or anything. I'm just telling you, because you've been good, you've been nice and all that. And I'm like, okay, you know what? In front of your house. I said, oh, come to the door, please. Talk to the person. And then, so, the person was admitted, spent about first better, and then was discharged not long ago. And the person's work didn't affect the person's job. Because we had to issue a formal letter, an official letter to the person's workplace to inform them of the mental health challenge of this person.
Okay.
And they understood what the challenges are, and then they made provisions for the client, and
All right.
the person was discharged, and the person is to work now.
Okay. John, at this point, we have to take a little breather. You know, you just stay with that thought. We'll come back in another few, 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay.
So stand by, like we say. Don't go
So
anywhere.
we'll pick up from there when we return from this break.
Yes.
Please don't go away. It's Today with John and Helen, and suicide is on our thoughts this morning. We'll be back shortly. All right, we'd like to thank you so much for staying tuned. This is Today with John and Helen on PlusTvAfrica. And with us to look at the evil occurrence that we find around us, claiming lives at random suicide, is a trained and practicing psychologist, John Odutemu. Now, let's see how much ground we are able to cover in the short time that we have left. John,
yes,
what's your next question?
Yeah, my next question will be this. You know, you've taken us through, you know, the basics, right? I want to go into an area that we always overlook. We hear, for instance, that children go through teenage blues. And at that time, you know, they may have suicidal tendencies.
Yeah.
Could you explain that to us? Teenage blues and suicidal tendencies in children?
Suicide is not just adolescents. You know, like at the beginning, I made mention of the word advice childhood experience. Okay,
Advice.
So, experiences that could predispose a child into attempting suicide. Children also deal with depression. Children deal with all sorts of things that the adult population may not even be aware of. A child who has been verbally abused by the parents or out there in the public, bullying is one of the major causes of teenage blue, childhood blue, adolescent blue, or what have you. Bullying in different forms could predispose such children, and then they might just want to end it all.
Okay.
If you observe it closely, you notice I'm bad-headed, and I've been like this since I was in primary 4. That was when I got to notice it. And whenever people, they taunted me then, but once I knew I was bad-headed right from when I was very young. And so it became a part of me, and then I learned to love myself.
Okay, all right, okay.
Okay, I learned to love myself. My parents appreciated me for the way I am. And so I had love from home. So there was really no way for anyone out there telling me one thing or the other about the fact that I was bald-headed right from about age 8.
Okay.
That it will hurt me to the point where I would get into depression.
Okay, so take home for me, because the director is telling us that we've got like 5 minutes left. Incredible. So take away from that is that you get to a place where you love yourself, and then where you find love and acceptance in your family or with people around you. So is having suicidal thoughts, can you say it's spiritual? Can you say it's mental? Or can you say it's more of a physical health issue? What is it? Because if we know what it is, you know, it might help with finding solution to it.
So having suicidal thought is majorly psychological. It's majorly mental and less. Now, most of the time, people that actually go ahead to attempt suicide are people that have what we call impulsive concerns. People who act on their impulse, while others are those who are compulsive. They don't think through. So it is very easy for those ones to actually attempt suicide. But for people who think through, suicide is really not what they think about it, but they often don't attempt it.
Yeah. So, of course, I mean, there is a link between suicidal thoughts and mental health disorder that we have established, you know, particularly, you know, depression, drugs, and alcohol use, like we've been told. Well, at this point, I think we must sincerely appreciate your time with us today. It looks like we just spoken for like 5 minutes. We just started,
yeah. But before I say my thank you, I'd like to give you 30 seconds, 60 seconds to say something to somebody who is on the verge of doing something that he or she shouldn't do. You know, just something as a professional.
So, before, like they always say, there's light at the end of the tunnel, even though no one has ever got to the end of the tunnel. One thing I just need you to know is this: our tunnels are different, our journeys are different, just as you are different. The world needs you to get to the end of your tunnel, to be able to show the light that is at the end of your tunnel. Don't give up on life. Don't give up on yourself. Don't take suicide. Don't take your life. The world needs you.
Thank you.
Without you, the world would never be the same.
Wow.
Thank you.
Okay, that's profound. Thank you so much. Now, to say we have been impacted by your shared experience would be stating the obvious. Once again, thank you so much for making time to join us at such a short notice. We appreciate you. All right. And we have also, it's been established that suicide happens impulsively in moments of crisis, with a breakdown in the ability to deal with life stresses such as financial problems, relationship breakups, illnesses, conflicts, disasters, violence, abuse, and a lot more.
Yeah.
And it's never an option.
Well, Helen, how many of us are really spared from the predisposing symptoms mentioned, you know, in this talk? Tough times indeed. We also have, you know. So it's time to make way for Dolly Phillips, the beautiful and energetic Keep Fit coach, you know, to help us go through whatever thoughts we have in our mind.
Because exercise might also be another way out.
Oh,
so
yes,
from the gym with Dolly, we shall take some messages and hand you over to Pharaoh Shoniga, who is already here with our guests. Today, as always, they are determined to leave you happier, more focused on the things that matter, and better informed at the end of lifestyle and wellness segment. Off we go to the gym, and please, please, please join in the exercise this morning.